Nonsense 1. Perfidia avoiding prison after multiple violent terrorist attacks. Perfidia is depicted as participating in a series of bombings targeting a politician's campaign office, a bank, a courthouse, and electricity infrastructure. Before the bombing of Senator Wilson's re-election campaign office, she telephones him and explicitly identifies herself as responsible.
Sincerely yours, Perfidia Beverly Hills, motherfucker.
She is later arrested after a chaotic bank robbery during which she kills a security guard. Despite this highly violent history, the film suggests that Lockjaw is able to arrange an outcome in which Perfidia avoids prison and is placed into witness protection without any clear legal consequences.
You can save me.
In the US, witness protection is a real legal mechanism for cooperating defendants, but it does not operate as a blanket pardon. US Department of Justice materials make clear that protected witnesses may still remain in custody or pass through prison contexts. In other words, witness protection and law prison are not the same thing. Department of Justice policy also recognizes cooperation-based sentence reductions or even very substantial leniency, but it indicates a preference for preserving at least some form of legal accountability. Even if one assumes that Lockjaw is an unusually corrupt power figure, the film itself establishes Perfidia as a high-visibility target. A near-total erasure of consequences would require coordination, suppression, or silence across multiple institutional layers, including investigators, prosecutors, supervisors, record systems, courts, and, importantly, the media ecosystem. The combination of highly visible violent acts and the public celebratory arrest spectacle makes a low-consequence disappearance especially difficult to accept. Nonsense 2. Police stop triggered by Bob's beer drinking, yet Bob's disappearance not addressed. During the drive toward the location, the film implies that the police car begins pursuing Sensei and Bob after officers observed Bob drinking beer in the passenger seat. By the time police stop the vehicle, Bob has already ejected himself from the car, yet they do not ask Sensei why the visibly offending passenger is no longer present.
What did you toss out of the vehicle?
Excuse me?
What did you toss out of the vehicle back there?
Trash.
Given police protocols, the short time interval between observation and intersection, as well as the fact that the police officers were able to observe an object being discharged from the vehicle, it appears the film wants us to disregard basic principles of human behavior. Nonsense 3. Avanti's abrupt shift from reluctant handoff to suicidal intervention. Avanti initially appears willing to transport Willa to the 1776 group rather than directly kill her himself, which suggests a character motivated by self-preservation, opportunism, and/or at least limited moral restraint. Within minutes, however, he reverses course, attacks the entire 1776 group, and engages in a gunfight that is functionally suicidal, ending in his own death. While the film does provide motivational cues for discomfort, such as his unease and the presumably racist hostility of the group, these cues establish at most a reason to withdraw, hesitate, or attempt a narrower intervention. They do not sufficiently establish why Avanti would escalate so rapidly into a near-certain definition, making his decision-making psychologically impossible. Nonsense 4. Tim Smith's pursuit of Willa, that is, Avanti. Tim Smith pursues the car driven by Willa. This creates a two-part plausibility problem. If Tim's aim is to kill Willa as part of the Christmas Adventurer's clean resolution, the film does not provide any clear visual or informational link explaining how Tim identifies that Willa is in that specific car. If, alternatively, Tim is pursuing Avanti, then the motivation is underexplained. Previously in the film, Tim himself describes Avanti as a highly valuable tracker, and the Christmas Adventurer's discussion frames the problem primarily as Lockjaw and the child-related evidence, not Avanti. The film therefore leaves it unclear why killing Avanti would be necessary to make the situation clean. Nonsense 5. Lockjaw's survival and body functionality after facial gunshot injury and violent car crash. Lockjaw is first shot in the face by Tim Smith, then appears to lose control of the vehicle, rolls over, and is later shown hanging inverted, bloodied, and initially non-responsive when Bob arrives. It is true that gunshot injuries to the face can create dramatic bleeding and a shocking appearance while still being survivable. However, the film stacks multiple life-threatening traumas in rapid succession and then displays Lockjaw rapidly returning to organized and even functionally aggressive movement. The amount of blood and his prior unresponsiveness suggest more than a trivial superficial wound. In realistic conditions, even survival would more often be accompanied by disorientation, collapse, neurological impairment, airway risk from blood, or urgent need for medical intervention. Also, Lockjaw's final scene, showing his face disfigured but otherwise retaining practical practically full body function, implies a level of recovery that is inconsistent with human physiology. Nonsense 6. Bob and Willa's rapid return to normal life in original house. In the ending, Bob and Willa are shown living again in the same house in Buckton Cross as before, behaving in a comparatively relaxed, normalized way, with Bob even using an iPhone and approving Willa's awakened political activism. This outcome is difficult to reconcile with both the film's earlier characterization and the events just shown. Bob is established as deeply threat-oriented, paranoid, and systematically avoidant of technology because of exposure risks tied to his past and to Willa's safety. Such patterns do not typically disappear quickly, especially not after an acute life-threatening escalation involving loss of control, armed pursuit, and uncertainty about one's child's safety. Willa, meanwhile, is a teenager who has just undergone displacement, captivity, death threats, and life-threatening events, and has faced revelations about her parents' history. A rapid return to routine, continued exposure from the same residence, and immediate entry into visible activism are presented with too little adjustment and fear response. The film therefore implies a catharsis for both characters that is psychologically undermotivated. In real life, the film would have to end at around 2 hours, 23 minutes, and 4 seconds. While the film can still proceed through most of its central conflict, its final stretch increasingly departs from naturalistic plausibility. The main pressure points are the treatment of Lockjaw's injuries and the psychological reset of Bob and Willa. At that stage, the film appears to shift from a comparatively grounded chain of consequences into symbolic or fable-like resolution where physiological limits, trauma responses, and exposure risk are selectively reduced to secure closure.